You're listening to Arts and Culture on Southampton's Voice FM. My name is Xan Phillips, and in February, the multi-award winning master of mind control and psychological illusion, Derren Brown, returns to Mayflower Theatre with his brand new live show, Only Human. However, the show is under wraps. It's a complete secret, and here to tell us why is Derren Brown. Derren, very good afternoon to you. How are you?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you. I'm currently rehearsing that show, so it's always a very exciting bit. So we did the show last year, and now this is the second leg of the tour. Kind of not quite starting in Southampton, but pretty close to it. It's only the second date, and we're currently making a bunch of changes and improvements to it. So it's an exciting time for me.
Well, I'm intrigued you have to rehearse this because, from what I can gather, a lot of audience participation involved. So, do you have to get fresh faces in for every rehearsal?
No, it's not. No, that's it's a weird thing about doing these shows is that there is no way of sort of you never never really know what's going to work until you get it out in front of an audience. So that's the hardest part of it. But that happened at the start of the tour last year when it really began from scratch. So it's had a year of, settling in now. It's in very good shape. But what we do like to do is it's quite nice having when I say we, I mean the sort of the team of us that make the show, having had a few months off is to sit back and go, right, so what can we now change? Because it is hard to make big changes when you're on the road for all sorts of technical reasons. So we make little changes all the time, but it's very nice to sit back and have a a bit of space. But yeah, it's an odd thing because you kind of a lot of the things I do only really work when there's 1,000 people watching it because I know it's going to work on a certain percentage, So I just you cannot do it in a rehearsal room when you've only got a small handful of you. One of the recent shows was called Miracle, and the whole of the second half was faith healing, and I just had no idea if it would work with a largely skeptical audience, people like me who aren't coming there expecting it. So it's a big thing going out on the first night, not really sure if you've got a second half or not.
Do you think the public is becoming more aware of the power of the mind?
Well, we're very educated in those things now, and we're very therapeutically educated, and our the language we have for ourselves is very rooted in all of that. But I think what I do has always been it's a very sort of niche applied psychology, I guess. I mean, any good magician is a good applied psychologist. Doesn't necessarily translate to the rest of life, but you get very good at one odd small slither of things. And a lot of the things I do on stage don't really translate that well to real life. And people imagine I must breeze through life, getting upgrades and just generally, manipulating everybody. It's just not, it isn't true. That would be a horrendous way of trying to live. But yeah, I think there's a general awareness of these things to an extent. But on the other hand, we all fall for things that are thousands of years old. I mean, look how easily we still fall for psychics and mediums, and that making certain kind of statements that we just sort of make fit, and we ignore the things that don't. I mean, it's amazing how compelling that stuff is, as educated and knowledgeable as we apparently are. There's a friend of mine is a parapsychologist, so he goes and investigates ghost huntings and ghost hauntings and so on. And he said a surprisingly common thing is that how like a certain noises like rumblings sort of vibrate bits of us and make us feel a bit sick and so on, and it's just like it's a physiological thing. We don't really have any control over that. He said, but quite a common thing is that you have wind coming in through like an extractor fan in a window, or there's just a crack in the window where air's coming in, it's vibrating that glass at a certain vibration, which you wouldn't be aware of, but it makes your eyelids vibrate. It just hits a sweet spot. It's quite a relatively common thing with, old windows and houses. And when your eyes vibrate like that, you see like black shadowy shapes in your peripheral vision that disappear when you turn and look. it's just quite a common thing that a lot of apparent hauntings are solved by, closing the windows properly or getting double glazing. But we don't know that. Like you'd never work that out. That's just some weird bit of knowledge that he's gained from doing it. So I think, yeah, for all the education that we have and think we have, there's always these sort of strange areas that still get us.
Well, you actually, it was a hypnotist, I'm right in thinking, that first turned you onto
Mm.
this, or watching a hypnotist.
Yeah.
So that, but hypnotism is slightly different, though, isn't it? Because that's one person working with another person, and sort of changing their state of mind. So was it necessarily that part of it which really tickled you into doing this as a career?
Yes, exactly. So I saw this hypnotist, Martin Taylor, when I was at Bristol University. I just started studying, and I just left going, right, that's what I'm going to do with my life. And I think what brings it all together, well, I started off then working as a hypnotist, then I did a bit of sort of close-up magic, around tables in restaurants and earned my keep like that for a while. But it was always the psychology of it that interested me most. What brings it all together, and I think what ultimately interests me and has kept me going with it, is the stories that we tell ourselves. That's because when you're hypnotizing somebody, it looks like you're doing something to them, but you're not really. You're kind of facilitating something within them. They're sort of hypnotizing themselves. So, if you go and see a hypnotherapist, you're achieving something for yourself, right? And you're guiding somebody maybe through a state, but ultimately they're doing all the work. And likewise with a magic trick, I mean, it's as childish and silly as all of that is in many ways. There's an interesting thing that is happening when you see a trick that fools you well. You're really being brought face to face with the fact that your story of the world is not the same as reality, that you're forming a narrative constantly of what's going on in the world, and it isn't the same as what's actually happening. There's always a difference because you realize, that you've missed something. You were staring closely at what this performer was doing, and you still miss something fundamental. Um, and as any magician will tell you, most of what's happening isn't sleight of hand. It's a sort of psychological trick that's being led to form a story. And all of that stuff is fascinating to me because it reaches far beyond, card tricks and conjuring into how we relate to life. We have this infinite data source coming at us, so we have to edit and delete and form a narrative. We have to do that, otherwise we never get up in the morning. Like you have to navigate it somehow, but it just isn't. It really isn't true, and from that discrepancy, so many of our problems arise.
Well, yes, because I mean, it's interesting you talk about that because people I'm sure more people than not are manifesting at the moment. I mean, I remember someone telling me about a book they picked up in a local, it's actually TK Maxx. They said, "Oh, I've got this manifesting book for TK Maxx," and when you see that, you sort of think, well, this has become fairly mainstream now, and that's people telling themselves a story. So do you see that as a sort of treading on your patch, or is that just
By manifesting, you mean sort of putting your wishes out into the universe and it provides that sort of,
yes?
yeah, it's such a, I mean, it's nonsense and it's occasionally dangerous nonsense. I mean, there is a, it's a hangover from Calvinism. Strangely has religious roots that we can, by our own work and our own mental commitment, can sort of somehow bend the will of God or bend the universe to our wishes. And from that, the whole American model of optimism sort of arose that you can, by setting your goals relentlessly and so on, you'll achieve this sort of form of salvation in whatever form that is, some glimmering castle on the horizon. And I think actually it's really important in life to realize that the universe doesn't care about any of those things. And while there's a certain amount of sense in thinking positively about short-term goals, the problem with applying that to life is that you can spend your life climbing a ladder and then realize you had it against the wrong wall. And also that the very act of achieving the goals, the act of building the thing, building the company that's going to make you a millionaire that you're going to sell by the time you're 35, whatever that goal is. Actually, it's the building of the company that is giving your life meaning. Once you've sold the thing, you may find yourself oddly grieving the very thing that made life feel like it had something going for it. So I think our whole the whole business of goal setting is very messed up. As I said, for short-term goals, you need to pass an exam or do your driving test and so on. Then a certain amount of that is helpful. But even then, visualizing winning and so on is not normally it's not normally helpful at all. A more helpful model, I think, is if we accept, okay, the universe doesn't care. What actually happens in life, if you imagine a graph, right? We've got one axis is all our goals, the things we want to achieve, including all of those things that people try and manifest. And then the other axis, the y-axis, I guess, I get confused, is what life is throwing back at us, right? All the challenges and all the things that go wrong. We just got life here and our aims here. And what we actually live is an x equals y, vaguely undulating diagonal. Sometimes we're on top and things are going great, and then we turn a corner and something awful happens and something beyond our control. But there's something quite liberating in that, because then it's about, well, how do you just live in an easier accordance with that? What they used to call fate, and they used to call fortune. I mean, they're just sort of unfashionable words. But there's a difference between being, an unfortunate, as we would have been thought of ourselves back then, and being a loser as we think of it now, like we've lost some game. And it isn't. This is just simply how the universe really works. And then it can translate into things like, well, there's an old 2,000-year-old Stoic principle which says, well, you're only in control of certain things. And if you try and control things that you're not in control of, you're just going to create endless misery and anxiety and frustration. So what are you in control of? Well, you're in control of your thoughts and your actions. Everything else, what other people do and what they think and what outcomes arise in the world, they're not under your control. And you can just let those things go and decide that they're fine and just focus on the things you're actually in control of, which essentially are your thoughts and your actions and what you get up to. And that's directly saying the universe is not under our control. We can't manifest these things. We can't make these things happen, but we can just get on with our own bit. So we can put a lot of effort into something we really believe in, but we're not in control of the outcome. The outcome may never come, or it may happen a generation after we're gone or whatever. We can still put our effort in and care enough.
Well, I totally see what you're getting at about the looking after your own patch, but not worrying about the bigger picture. But at the same time, what we've seen in, let's say, the last 6 to 8 months, as far as world politics is concerned, is everything seems to have been turned on its head. And there's one particular character who is doing things, and that's completely at odds with what other leaders have done before. It's almost as if it's like a mix, like misdirection and illusion happening at the same time. As someone in your profession, can you see that, or am I reading too much into what's happening on the world stage?
Yes, it's extraordinary, isn't it? There's a very we did uh, a really interesting experiment with right and left wing people. It was for a TV show, but it never ended up making it to the show, where uh so the right wing urge is essentially a groupish urge, right? The right wing urge is to make the group strong against outside threat. And the left wing urge essentially is to make individuals the right wing urge can happen at the group strength, but it happens often at the expense of people that are sort of at the bottom rungs of the ladder, that they often suffer because of that. So the left wing urge is you protect the people at the bottom rungs of the ladder. And what can then suffer is the overall structure, but that's fine. That's a progressive urge. So the structure changes to protect the people that need protecting. And it's a yin and yang thing. It's two really important urges. And sometimes we need one and sometimes we need the other. But it is interesting because if you prime people to feel threat, they become more right wing. So during times of COVID, like COVID, for example, right? We all lent into this sudden, quite groupish mindset, and you want to hang on to big things and big certainties and big ideas. So we had, just before COVID, for example, we were all in love with those sort of small batch beers and lots of sort of what do you call it, little sort of independent businesses, and suddenly those sales went right down, and we all went for the big names in beers and Foster's and stuff. We were all like drinking. It was fascinating what happens. As soon as there's a time of threat, we all cling to the big things. And we did an experiment where we got a bunch of lefties and put them in a room and primed them to think they're not to feel they were under threat as such, but just to sort of mentally rehearse the idea of threat. And we did it by filling the room with things that there was a bad smell, and we made out there had been an accident in the room before they came in, and there was just rubbish everywhere, and so there was a fear of contamination. That's a type of threat that really hits us at an evolutionary level. And we had them answer questions on political hot topics that they'd answered earlier in the day, but they were worded a little differently, so they didn't realize they were answering the same questions. All of their answers slid to the right. It was fascinating. And then we got the right-wing people and made them feel invincible, right? So got them just do a little mental rehearsal of what it'd be like if you had a superpower and bullets would bounce off you and so on. And then again, gave them these answers. All their answers slide to the left. It is a really interesting thing how we feel that our political views are somehow won through rational consideration of the issues, and they're really not. So much of it is about how we relate to things as simple as how threatened we feel in the moment. It's why often the right-wing racist rhetoric is often tied in with images of contamination, poison spreading, and often that sort of language. It's and why, if you want to show that there's the climate crisis is an issue, and you want to reach, say, the right wingers in America, but you're left wing, so your natural tendency is to talk about poor people that are going to suffer, the people on the coast of India, say, that are going to suffer. But actually what you need to talk about is how it threatens the American way of life, because you need to get to that groupish mentality. Anyway, I find all of it really interesting. We are, and yes, at the moment we're very much in a groupish mentality place. We've probably grown a little tired of the excesses of the far left, and we're all sort of shifting in a time of threat and uncertainty to the big ideas, and we want certainty and we want big answers and so on, and we just naturally are swinging the other way, and that's just where we are at the moment. And they are two sides of important human urges, and of course the truth is always somewhere in the middle. The truth will always lie in dialogue between both.
Fantastic. That's a brilliant answer. Thank you very much, Derren. And I must admit, we haven't talked as much about the show as we probably should. But at the same time, as the show is under wraps and you are currently rehearsing, we're really looking forward to it arriving at Mayflower Theatre on the 10th to the 14th of February.
And I just should say, the Mayflower is such a great theatre. It's one of the highlights of doing a show. The show is quite secret, and I always swear the audiences to secrecy anyway. It's a lot of our audience participation, but I throw out frisbees to choose people, so no one is dragged up on stage. I'd hate it. I'd hate to be brought up on stage for a show, so I kind of imagine everyone else feels the same. So I throw out frisbees to choose people, but it is a joyous theatre. It's one of those. It's a big theatre, but has a very intimate feel, and you can sort of hear everybody on stage. It's a lovely experience performing there, and I really can't wait. And I'm pleased the show is in great shape after a year of being on the, well, not quite a year, but whatever, 5-6 months of being on the road already. So yeah, cannot wait to get back.
Derren Brown, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Xan. Lots of love.
Voice FM.